Splice original.
Hello, so what have we got here? Well, it's a Suzuki RGV250. It's a VJ21 and a K model from 1989. This particular bike is very, very rare indeed, one of only 500 made in these colours. The colour scheme is called Chic. Now Chic was a sponsor of production racing in Japan in the 80s, and would you believe Chic are razor blades? So it's a very, very rare machine indeed. You don't get to see too many of these on the roads, if any at all, to be honest. So we'll just do a small walk around video and point out a few things on the bike. This bike in particular, I'm going to be doing a nut and bolt restoration. It's for a friend of mine who I've done some bikes for before, and in particular I've done a Pepsi version of an RGV for him. So this one's going to be stripped down, nut and bolt, engine out, down to the bare frame. So what have we got? Well, an RGV is a V-twin 90-degree two-stroke. As you'll see, it's in a pretty sorry state. Fasteners really rusted through. So we'll start from the front. Red number board, as it would have been on the track. A little bit of damage to the fairing here, but we have actually got another complete fairing with no damage, which we'll actually just clean up. As we'll see, we'll go around. Now the forks, extremely rusty, so they'll be stripped and re-hard chromed. This look pretty rusty, but they will actually clean up. It's only surface rust. On the surface there, it even rubs off with the finger. Now these particular models, the Chic, there's some discrepancy in what colour the wheels should be. This one obviously looks like it's never been touched. It looks factory, straight out of the factory. It's totally standard by the looks of it. So therefore, the gunmetal grey metallic wheels look original, but on some of the brochures for these models, the wheels are painted white. So I think we're going to stick with the gunmetal grey because I think it suits the bike better. There's a little bit of damage down there to the fairing. I don't know if you can see a big crack there. So that will have to be plastic welded. As you can see, there are no calipers on the bike. We have actually sourced some original 1989 spec calipers. So they'll getting refurbed, resealed, new pads going straight on the bike. It looks like, not that it matters because the fork's going to get totally rebuilt, but it looks like the fork, oh yeah, you can see underneath how bad the dust seal is. So, and on the far side there you can see there's a heck of a lot of oil escaping. So they'll be rebuilt, completely stripped and rebuilt. Moving around the bike, this is a Japanese spec bike. So these mirrors are JDM, Japanese domestic market. UK bikes have a much flatter, squarer mirror, which kind of obviously exaggerated in size, but is that sort of shape. We'll need a replacement lever because the hard chrome on the span adjuster is obviously past saving. The screen, believe it or not, should clean up with lots of polish, lots of very, very fine wet and dry. And the reason we'll try and save it is because of that sticker there. You can't get these stickers anymore. If we can save it, we will. It's the original sticker, so the guy who I'm restoring the bike for, he wants to keep some patina. So we're going to try and rescue as much as we can of the plastics without painting them. Switch gear. Pretty. Switch gear is pretty affected by the sun. But believe it or not, get some heat going on it and it should clean up. So the tank, as you can see, highly sun damaged. Brought all the lacquer off, flaking away there. Just give it a rub and it just comes off. What's there? I think the key, yeah, the key fits. So lucky to have the key. As you can see, the bike's in kilometres, as it's a Japanese market bike. So we've only done 16,296 kilometres. I would say that's fairly original. The bike looks untouched, to be honest. Everything's original on it. Even the bar, I know the bar end's hanging off there, but that's definitely original. The clocks are actually in superb condition, just need a really good clean. So all the subframe, anything black metal will be getting, it's powder coated in satin black. All nuts and bolts will be cleaned and re-zinced. So moving along, will the seat come off? Yes, it will. There we go, seat's off. Original battery in there. I mean, even that is the spare fuse. It's still in its original packaging, which is quite incredible, really. It shows how original the bike is. But yes, I mean, there's nothing to these. I mean, the wiring's quite simple on them. A very basic loom. But yeah, it's all there. So moving along, you can just about see inside there. The carbs don't look in great condition, must admit. Although we do have a set of original carbs that I've stripped and cleaned. So we'll probably swap the carbs out. They're exactly the same carbs. The shock's in a bit of a sorry state. Whether that will clean up, we're going to get the spring powder coated. Still got the original decal on in Japanese, which is really cool to see. Yeah, I think the odd fastener's past redemption, but I think you can still get these. It's all these fasteners, they'll all clean up. Even the master cylinder, I think you call it push rod. Get that on the whizzy wheel, that'll clean up. Likewise with the footrests, they'll clean up and get re-zinced. Oh, the original decal there. Somebody's been doing a bit of woodwork near the bike, so we don't know what's going on there. I think that's been done since my pal's had the bike. He's a woodsman actually. Probably happened in his shed. Let's see what the compression's like. Does it turn over even? Yes, it does. It actually feels quite good. Lock there. Don't think it's going round. That was an intermittent lock, release, lock, release. It wasn't just normal compression. we'll have to see. Might have to take the barrels off and see what's going on there. Now if we move down under here, I mean, this is really cool to see. That bracket usually snaps off. That one there, that usually snaps off. But even all the original overflow from the Carbs, that's bottom of the airbox. These are from the Carbs. Fantastic to see. You don't get many bikes with all those still on, especially at this age. I mean, the bike's 35 years old now. Interesting to see. So these cans are anodized black chrome. So what we'll do is we'll get them blasted and polished up and probably powder coat them, because you can get exactly the same effect. You can even keep the Suzuki code. Don't know if you can see that. You can keep the Suzuki code on. So moving round, yeah, these bikes, because it's a race replica, they had a red number board. That's for the number of the race bike, whoever was riding it at the time. This is quite funny to see. Somebody has wrapped it in cellophane, but they put red tape to, obviously for the pictures, for selling it on Yahoo selling site, wherever he bought it, to make it look original. We have actually got this plastic piece here. We've got one of those. That's red. It's painted black and has red decal over the top. Nice to see an uncut mudguard. Really nice to see that. You don't usually get ones uncut these days, so that's really rare. Well, moving around, obviously the tyres are shot. They look original. I don't know what the date is on them. Is there a date on them? Not too sure, can't see it. Dunlops. Oh, the date's down there. Let's have a look. Is that 06? Let's have a look. No, not too sure. Not the same coding as these days. Obviously the chain and sprockets is absolutely junk. Looks like it's on its original sprocket, to be honest. Footrest hangers in a pretty sorry state, but they'll be vapor blasted and they will come back as new. It'll be an incredible transformation, to be honest. I've done quite a few RGVs now and in similar conditions, and they do clean up well. They do clean up well. Some bikes, brands don't, in particular Yamahas don't seem to be built as well, but Suzuki, yeah, they do clean up well. They use decent quality metals. Even the pipes, not been down the road, not scraped. Really good to see. It's a real survivor, this bike. A little bit of flaking on the decal there, but I think he wants to keep that. We'll just polish out things like these scratches, give it a really good deep polish and cut back, and they should be fine. Yeah. The rubber, still not hard, it's split though. Yeah, we'll probably have to get another one of those because that's got a split in it. Might have a spare, to be honest. Yeah, but she's all there. So, the next job, we'll try and get it going in the next episode. If we can't get it going, it may be seized. We're not too sure. It wasn't seized initially, but it did lock after a couple of kicks, or maybe on one of the bores. There's a bit of rust going on. Shouldn't be, because they are Nickersil coated, but we don't know until we get deeper into the engine, but we'll see. It's not imperative to get the bike going, but if we can, we can. If we don't, needs stripping down, there's no point in putting it back together just to prove we can get it going. We'll get it going. Afternoon, guys. Well, I got blown away yesterday by the weather, so we're back out in 40-mile-an-hour winds 3 days before Christmas, just so I can finish off the strip. I've done that now, so I'll just flip the video around. Well, here she is. I've had to do the voiceover on the computer. The wind was just so bad, so you can see it's totally standard underneath, and in pretty good condition, to be honest. We know the forks need rechroming, but around the front there, there's not, wiring has not been touched. It's as it came out of the factory there, so it's a real survivor, this bike. Well worth restoring. Everything's there. Even the frame's not in too bad a condition. Cylinders, hoses, everything's in place. Just needs really good cleaning, vapor blasting. All the wiring's in place, even under the seat. So there's all the mounting points for the tank. Under there, oh yeah, I discovered the oil cap was still in place, so obviously it keeps, they do pop out quite easy, so somebody's taped it on to keep it in place. But yeah, it's a complete bike. I can't wait to get stuck into it. So even the radiators usually get quite battered, but there isn't a fin missing or bent, to be honest. So it's a real good bike, this. So can't wait to get stuck in again, as I say. Next episode, I'll probably have stripped the bike down into its various constituent parts. So we'll there she is. See you in the next episode, guys. Have a good Christmas. Well, this is the part where I strip the bike down to all its individual parts, separate everything and get them ready for process. So you'll see me take the wheels out, take the pipes off, remove the wiring loom, and eventually drop the engine so that we're left with a bare frame. These are all going to get divided into the boxes I showed in the last episode of powder coat, things going off to vapor blasting, things going off to rezinking, etc. So carry on watching the video. I'm going to speed it up so you're not sat here all night watching me strip a bike, and then we'll see you later on. Evening all. Well, here we are in the workshop. So we've got the RGV nearly stripped down. We're in the latter stage of taking the engine out. Well, we're going to take the engine out and all the electrics are out. I'll just I'll whiz the camera around and I'll show you. Yeah, so here we are. Basically everything's off the bike apart from the forks. Forks are still in just because I've got the front wheel clamping the bike, and you need to box it up, prop it underneath to be able to take the engine out. So it's on paddock stand at the back. So we've got the engine there, all the hoses off it, all the electrics, wiring loom is out. It's in a pretty sorry state, if I'm being honest. Just a few cables and wires. The wires that go to the engine, that all the electrics, the charging and the ignition system. So I'll go around the front. Yeah, so getting close there, you can see how oxidised it all is. And if I get right in there, these corrode. So it should be a nice shiny flat edge, around that pipe, you can get them taken out and new ones fitted. It's just a bit of a ball ache, really. Got to send them down to the tuning works in Lincolnshire. I'm getting all these vapour blasted heads, barrels, cases. You can see it better on top there where the light is. It must have been stood for, I'd say, at least 20 years, this bike, because there's so much just oxidisation and dust that's soaked into oil. So around here, that's all covered in oil. But then it's like a felt surface, because it's been oily and then all the dirt is stuck to it. Yes, the tail's all clear, everything's off it. Just a few, they're just overflow hoses there. I'll just come down to that bit there. It's in pretty good condition. I mean, it's a bit oxidised in places. The shock's really rusted, the spring, but they can come back like new. There's that Japanese sticker again. Really cool to see. So taking the next little job's taking the engine out. Then I'll get the forks out last. Then the frame, there'll be nothing to hold the frame up. I'll run through these later on in this video, but we've got various boxes, so back brake, radiator, hoses, battery box, the carbs, plastics, electrics, all the rubbers, everything that's going to vapour, apart from more stuff to come from the engine. Clocks to be refurbished by myself. And there's the huge pile of fasteners and nuts and bolts, which I'll have to clean up before they go to the zinkers. Oh, we've got a box for powder coat down there, black powder coat. And then I've got a little tub of things up to now that I need to get, just fiddly things. So thermostat, the tab was brittle and it snapped off. Hero pegs, need a lever, spanner just the lever. Brake pads, rear master cylinder kit, I need one of those, but it's coming on. Really is coming on. Once the engine's out, I can start cleaning up a few of the boxes and see what we've got, get things off the process. So, I know why the engine locked up on the very first video. The bottom cylinder was full of water. I don't know if you can see it dripping out there. When I turn the flywheel, there's a few drips and there's a big puddle under the bike. So it must have just been stored outside. Yeah, water must have got in through the carb, through that inlet, into the bottom cylinder. So we're going to have to take I was going to take the top crankcase off. The top crankcase off anyway, down there. That's the top crankcase. Let's get the crank out. I was going to do that just to vapour blast the crankcases anyway, so it's all coming apart. And we'll see what's the state of play. The engine, it's just sat on the bench now, so it's I'm just about to start stripping it down, but just thought I'd give you a little run round it, show you the condition. As you can see, the aluminium that's been exposed to weather and damp, really, I mean, all these cylinder nuts, really rusty, and the head is extremely oxidized. That's all going off to vapor though, and it'll vapor blasting, and it'll come back like new, to be honest. Yeah, very oily around the power valve. The power valve cover's been leaking there, so very oily around there. As I've shown you previously earlier on, that spigot, water spigot, been sat and just corroded. Yeah, I had some real trouble getting the hose off, to be honest. Yeah, it's had a lot of oil on the underside of the engine. Looks like there's a bit of a weep from the clutch cover there. It looks in quite good condition though, once you look past the dirt. So yeah, the water pump cover, that'll get vapor blasted, as well as the heads, barrels, the power valve wheel, and the bracket that holds it all on, that'll all get resynced. What I am pleased to see is the rubbers. The rubbers are intact, completely intact, no cracks in them or anything, which is really good. Probably just need a little bit of heat thrown at them just to soften them up a bit. There's the Japanese decal, all about, I think it's about the engine oil, the gearbox oil level and what to put in it. Could Google translate that actually. But as you can see from the exhaust stud there, you can tell it's the first time they've been off the bike, just because how clean it is. And even inside that port there, how clean that is. It's a real genuine, complete bike. Showing you earlier on about the oil's leaked around off the chain, and mainly looks like it's off the chain. Doesn't look like there's any leaks, to be fair. And then all the dust stuck to it. That'll all clean up, get it vapor blasted. So that's the engine. I'm just about to start dismantling it so we can send all the parts off for vapor and all the nuts and bolts, fasteners for resinking. So then we've got the frame. I'll just come back a bit. The frame there. It's, yeah, again, in quite good condition. First time it's ever been apart. Little bit of grime and oil around where the chain passes through there. Little bit of oxidization. But they're really difficult because they're anodized, these frames, over the top of the alloy to protect them. They're really difficult to get back to a factory finish, because if you get them blasted or stripped, the welds change colour. So you either got to well, you can rub these down. I'm going to use a well-worn Scotch-Brite pad with some soapy water, and you just give them a light rub down and flat it off. And the marks do disappear a little bit. But Rob, whose bike it is, he wants it original. He doesn't want it powder coating to cover anything up. But the main spar of the frame, that is really good. Not too bad. There's a few little marks on it, but like they'll disappear a bit once it's cleaned. So that'll be getting degreased, jet washed. Then we've got, I'll just show you the forks. There we go, there's the forks, the tubes, as you can see, really quite pitted. There's no way back for those as they are. So this bit, that's the bit that's been inside the leg, the fork leg, absolutely like brand new. But obviously anything that's exposed and been in the weather, especially there, really bad. And up the top there, that's been facing forward. You can always tell which way they've been facing. That's the reverse, so they've been a bit protected on the reverse, but then you turn it around to the front that's been in the weather, and they're always worse. Likewise that one, that's not as bad on that one. The back's quite good, but they're getting reground. I take them to a guy whose business, would you believe, is all based on hard chroming London taxi cab steering racks, of all things, and he's made a whole business out of it. He does other stuff now, and he does quite a lot for motorcycles, like fork legs and suspension, struts in the rear shocks, but it works out, well, better than standard, because standard, I believe, the chrome itself is about 5 to 8 thou of an inch thick. If you buy replacement tubes, they are only 2 to 3 thou, and you can really tell the difference. Yet when I take these to Steve, the chroming guy, he does this to 12 to 15 thousandths of an inch thick, so over twice as thick as a standard tube, and you can really see the difference. The chrome has got a real depth to it, and it's hard chrome, so it's really good for the longevity of the bike going forward. So let's move on. Front wheel there, just need to take the discs off that. Yeah, so the front subframe, I'll just stand that up there. The front subframe, a little bit of oxidisation, but it's just dirty more than anything. Really dirty. That'll just clean up. And then the swinging arm, that's a bit, I'll just go in close. You can see a bit more oxidisation there, quite a bit more than the frame. And on the side there, but there's a bit of, I'll just turn it over. There's a bit of damage there on that bit. And there's a bit of damage there. That looks like a foot, where the footrest has come into it. So this is going off to a guy called Mushti. And now Mushti is a guy from Zimbabwe. He's made a little garden shed business out of polishing and doing brushed aluminium, chrome polishing, mirror polishing on aluminium. He's really good at it. He's a bit of a genius. So that's going off to him for resurrection. Tank down there, we've seen that before. All the lacquer lifted off the top. Yeah, so nearly there. Once the engine's stripped and the parts are in the zinc bin and the vapor blasting box, that's it. They'll be going off to the processes whilst I go on holiday for a few weeks. So I'm making good progress. So I just wanted to show you, I've just started taking the motor apart, and I just wanted to show everyone, wow, it's dirtier than a dirty thing of a very dirtiness. Anyway, I've taken a power valve cover off and look at what I found inside. Wow, I have not seen an RGV power valve cover so bad. So this just, all this evidence, I can't believe how dirty it is, but all this evidence definitely pointing to, it's got the original seal there, the original, gasket. You can see it's just split at the corner there. But wow, I have not seen a power valve. I mean, they barely move, they're sticky. They barely move, they're that gunked up with oil. So that's what 16,000 kilometers, 10,000 miles without cleaning power valves looks like. wow. The front one's just as bad. It's like black molasses. Wow. I just thought I'd show you that, guys. That's tickled me how bad they are. They could fail at any time, because when they're so sticky like this, they stick together and it can cause vibration and cracks, and it's just a world of pain. They need more maintenance than this, but thankfully I've found it. Hopefully they're all right once I get them out. If they've got more to show you once I get them out, I'll just give you a little look at them. Okay, guys. In fact, this one's it's tickled me even more. Look, I was telling lies just now. Look at the other one. Oh my word. Oh my word. That is the worst power valve cover I've ever seen on an RGV. Oh, funny. That's tickled me. Okay, boys and girls. Speak to you in a bit. Well, I have just taken the crank out, and it's interesting. She's a dirty girl, this engine. I mean, look at the gunk that's come out of it. That's just the residue of whatever was left inside the gearbox, and the watery oil. The darker stuff is out of the crankcase where the crank sits, and there is the empty crankcase. So I've taken the top off. I'll show you that in a minute. Just give it a bit of a wipe out, but it was absolutely filthy, full of sludge. So I've just spoken to Rob, and we're going to rebuild the crank. So we've got a very noisy left-hand main bearing. You can hear that. Centre one's not quite as bad, but you can hear it. The only one that's reasonable, which is quiet, well, it's not even quiet. You can just about hear that one. So yeah, and obviously that's the conrod from the cylinder that was full of water. Doesn't look too bad through the conrod there, but all the mains need replacing anyway, so the crank's got to come apart. So this will be getting sent off. So it'll have new left hand main bearing, new centre main bearing, labyrinth seal will be okay, you can't even get them anymore anyway, and a new right hand crank seal and outer main, and then both big end conrod bearings, and it'll be like new. It'll be right as rain. It'll be good. Oh yeah, and final bit before everything goes off. So there's the top crankcase. Just going to go to vapor. I'll probably strip the gearbox and take the clutch out and all that, and the other crankcase will go to vapor as well, but I might have to take it separately because I've run out of time really. Need to get these away. So I've got a box full of all the aluminium bits that are going to vapor, heads and barrels, top crankcase going to vapor, and yeah, that crankcase will be going to vapor. Got that box there, that's going to be zinc, so that's going to be mainly clear silver zinc, quite a bit of green zinc that goes to a separate place, olive drab I've mentioned before, and then there'll be a few gold bits, gold zinc. That's all going off. All the rest of this will just be cleaned up here. Anyway, what we're going to do this morning, we've got the bottom end crankcase for the RGV. Now this is going off to vapor, needs a vapor blast, it's absolutely filthy. So we've still got the clutch attached, still got the kickstart drive mechanism, and all the gearbox inside, so it's all going to come out. It's a cartridge gearbox, as most of you might know, so it all slides out, but I've got to get everything out of it, all the cables off the oil pump, neutral light, the oil feed lines, and then all the bearings out of the case as well, ready to go to vapour. So what I'll do is I'll start taking it apart and I'll be explaining what I do when I get onto it. As I've said before, I'm just at home, learn my own ways, taught myself from a few tips and things like that, and it might not be 100% correct by some of you who are proper engine gurus, but this is how I do things. I've only got hand tools apart from the odd impact driver, things like that. So hopefully this will be informative for you guys who are like me, who just want to get stuck in, learn a bit, work on your own bikes. So bear with me. Hopefully all goes to plan and it all goes nice and smooth. Right, so first thing we're going to do is take the clutch out. Pretty easy. All these are 6 bolts here. Hold the pressure plate on. 10 milli. So we'll whiz them out. So that's all the pressure plate retaining bolts out. There we go, pressure plate's off. And inside there's the clutch. So I'll try and lift these out. Oh yeah, it's pretty manky. It is pretty manky. Wow. Yeah. I'll get it all out as one if I can. Will it come? Maybe. Might have to do a few individuals. Oh, there we go. It's come now. All I can do is clean it up, clean them all separately. There's a little bit of rust. That's where the water got in, sludge. And it's stuck together. Yeah, it's stuck together. I'll clean them up and we'll see where we go, but might need new clutch. I've never actually taken one out of an RGV and it's come out as a block. Yeah, you can see how stuck together they are. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'll clean it and see what happens. It might work, you never know. Yeah, the bottom plate is stuck solid. I mean, it shouldn't come out as a retaining clip, but it's absolutely solid anyway. Anyway, need to get the tab washer. I'll turn it around, show you. There we go. There's a tab washer there that's bent over. So I'll knock that back, flatten it, and then we'll get the impact wrench on it and free this big centre nut. They usually come out quite easy with an impact driver. Right, just tap that down with a flat, nice and gentle. Try and use this washer again. You can turn them round, so use the other side of it. You purists out there would probably put a new one on, but I've never had any trouble turning them around. They usually do a few goes. There we go, that looks all right. Let's get the impact driver. Hopefully this goes in first go. Yeah, there we go. That pops off easy. Lovely. It's even brought the clutch up. That was easy. Lovely. So let's keep all that together. Let's put that inside. Keep all that together. Drop those back in so we know where they all are. Right. So that there's the gear selection shaft. That goes to your left hand side where you click the lever up and down with your left foot. That just slides out. Yeah, you can see quite milky. That was where all the water got into the oil and emulsified. But the shaft itself looks in really good condition. Bit rusty on the outside bit there. Or is it even? No, it's not even rust, it's just caked on oil. I'll clean that up. That looks fine. I think what we'll do now, oh, there's that collar. Should I take that? I'll leave that down for now. I think what we'll do actually is get all this oil pump paraphernalia out the way, because all these hoses and cables are a bit of a pest. So in there, got the oil pumps held on by literally just two posi drive screws. Now obviously it's never been apart, this bike. We'll release the oil pump cable. Just have to bend this little tab. Hopefully I can get underneath. Let's get another screwdriver. Try this one. Just bend this little tab up. That's it, it's coming now. That's it. And then the cable should pop out. Just bend it a bit more. That should be enough. Yes. There we go. So that's the oil pump cable, which joins to your, in the junction box under the tank with the throttle cables. And as you turn the throttle, it pulls the oil pump. So there's the oil pump cable. That's one thing out the way. Now that's the feed. The big pipe there is the feed from the oil tank, and these two small pipes go to the cylinders. They're the ones that feed the cylinders, and these two pipes are the ones that feed the crankcase. They go straight to the crankcase, so they lubricate the bottom end of the bike. Right, let's see if we can just see if those two posi drive screws will come straight out. I doubt it. Might have to just give them a little tap, the impact driver, but we'll see. Sorry, I keep saying posi drive, I mean jizz. Japanese, oh yes, industrial specification. Slightly different. That one came out easy. Let's try the other one. Oh yes, nice. That was good. Oh, greased. That's why it came out well. Yet more proof that it's never been off. This one's a smaller one. Just get the magnet on it. Let's get it out. There we go. Get a little magnetic dish, keep them safe. So this should, it should, he says, it should pop off. It is, obviously it's on a shaft from the other side which drives it, but if we just try and give it a little, we'll just give it a little tap. I mean a little tap as well, just to loosen it, just to shock it. I think that's moving already. Yeah, it is moving. So just give it a little tap. It's moving. Yeah, I think it wants to come. Come on. Yes. There we are. So, I can feed these very hard hoses. Yeah, that's snapped. That's snapped already because it's that brittle. Ah, oh well. Put it in the parts required box. All these are so stiff, these hoses. I might just give them a soak in boiling water and just see if I can resurrect them, because they're a bit of a funny size. But it's only a bit of hose, so I'm sure we could get something. That's those two out. This one slide through. Yeah, there we go. That's good. That's out of the way. Stick that over there. Keep it all on the bench for now. So in there, let's just clear a bit of debris. Right, in there, there's a gasket, goes behind the pump, and a little plastic drive there. Now on the back of the pump, is that drive pinion, I suppose you'd call it. Drive pinion, or yeah, I suppose that's what you call it. And that slots into that plastic drive there, which in turn obviously spins the oil pump. So let's give that a bit of a white there, see what we got. Yeah. Ah. Right, okay, that's that out of the way. A couple of washers have fallen off on the back. So that collar that goes behind the clutch, that's come off from there. There's a big pressure washer, I suppose you'd call it, that goes behind it. That one goes down there, I think. Yeah, that's where the gear change shaft goes through. I'll stick that on there so we know where it is. That's that one. So I think we'll take this collar off because it wants to fall off. Just put that with the clutch. A little drink. Right. A little bit clearer, what we can see what we're doing a bit more now. There's some old gasket which snapped. Obviously replacing all the gaskets as we go. So I think next thing, I'm going to take the neutral light switch off because that's the last sort of thing that's in the way. I mean, you can see why it's going to vapour blasting. It's absolutely caked in thick oil and dust that's soaked into the oil. So it's really manky. You can clean them. I have cleaned the bottom side a bit there, but it's stained. All this oil that sits on it for years on end, it stains the cases, and the only way to get them back looking good is vapor blasting. I've the guy who's doing the vapor blasting, he's got all the other parts that I've sent to him, including the top crankcase where the crank sits. So the crank sits in there, he's got the top case and he's done that already. I'll post a picture while I'm talking. And you'll see how beautiful it's come up. I mean, it's better than new. It really is better than new. So it would be a travesty to just clean up this bottom case by hand. because it'd get clean, but it's like I say, it'd all be stained. So we'll send it off for the sake of 20-30 quid. It's more than worth doing. Now, while we're on the subject of things that's worth doing, I mean, I'll give away a couple of my secrets. A lot of people restore bikes and they do a good job, but they don't do certain things. So they'll clean up the cases by hand with degreaser. Maybe some of it's lack of knowledge. They don't want to go this deep into the crankcase, so they leave the crankcase, the top case, in place. If the crank itself is all right, they'll leave it all in place and clean it up by hand, which is fine if that's what you're happy with. But if I'm doing a full restoration for the sake of probably what, £150 worth of vapor blasting, and if you buy a full gasket set, even if you don't use the head gaskets, which I prefer to use genuine head gaskets, but on this one I'm going to try and use Athena ones. I'm going to have a word with Sean at the Tuning Works because he sells those kits, and for the sake of buying a full gasket set, you get every gasket, so clutch case cover, oil pump, you name it, everything you take off that's got a gasket behind it, you get a gasket in that Athena kit. So for 60 quid, it's really, sorry, £60 for you continental viewers, but for the sake of £60, even if you don't use the head gaskets, it's much better than and more economical than buying genuine. And it's only paper gaskets. It's not going to do, it's not an issue to use pattern there. They're fine. You even get O-rings and things in there too, so they're a really good kit. Right, let's get this neutral switch off. Hopefully we have the same look that we did with the oil pump. Yes. Good news. There's one. It really does help, because some of you may not know this, but all Japanese bikes, I'm not sure from what date, but probably from year dot, have JIS, Japanese Industrial Specification screws. They look like Phillips screws, but they are slightly different. They have a square shoulder knot. I think Phillips have slight chamfer in the inside of the X. And if you use Phillips posi drive screwdrivers, you end up damaging the JIS screws. So always buy yourself, these are Teng, but always buy yourself a set of JIS screwdrivers because they just fit properly. Okay, so yes, that's loose. That's coming out easily. Nice one. So the cable routes in that passageway there and comes straight out. Now inside here, apart from a bit of debris, there's an O-ring which has been doing its job. Get that out. Try this screwdriver. Yeah, there we go. So there's an O-ring which sits there, and then as you'll see there are contact points on the back of this neutral switch, and they correspond to all the gears and neutral. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know where it sits when it is in neutral, who knows, but there's a ball bearing there. There it is, and that is the thing that contacts these brass contact points and makes the connection. So it must sit somewhere, maybe there because there's a bigger gap, I don't know. It must sit somewhere where it's not, when it's not in gear. It's got to be between one of those two, probably there, because that's shiny and it's in between one end of the revolution So I would say that's neutral, because it's got a little indent where it's shiny, and most of the time bike sits in neutral, doesn't it, when it's stood still. So that is probably where neutral is, and the ball bearing sits on that point and light illuminates your green neutral light. So I'll be very careful with this because we don't want to lose it. In fact, I'm telling you lies, it's not actually a ball bearing, it's a little, it looks like a ball bearing, but it's a long shaft with a spring. There we are. So the spring keeps the tension on the, I'll just give it a clean. The spring keeps the tension on the rounded ball, which pushes onto that plate and makes the contact. So without the spring, it'd probably just fall away. I'm just going to get a little bag for this neutral light switch and its mechanism. I keep loads of anything that I buy parts wise. I just keep the bags because they come in so handy, especially with the little Ziploc end to them, and then we don't lose anything. I mean, I must admit, it is quite daunting. I've done loads of bikes. This is probably about my 15th, 12th, 14th, 15th bike that I've restored fully, or partially at least. And I must admit, when I looked at the box of nuts and bolts and fasteners, it is quite daunting, even though I've done it loads of times. But as long as you've took loads of pictures, you've got a manual, you get away with it, and you keep things in bags. So if I didn't put that in a bag, just put it in a pot, I'd be going, where does that spring go? Obviously recognise the little push rod thing, but you go, where's that spring go? So essentially keep things that belong together in bags. Okay, so that's off. Let's give it a little wipe so it doesn't leak everywhere. Well, that'll get fully clean when it's vapour blasted. Right, now I think what we'll do is, it's getting lighter as well, which is good. I think what we'll do is we'll take the kickstart mechanism off. So literally, I mean, they almost fall off, these things. They're a bit of a pest when you're putting the clutch cover back on, but it's literally undo that 10mm nut and it releases these two springs and it just pulls out. It just pulls out on its own. So I'll just get a 10mm spanner. Okay, let's give it a knock. There we go, that's released. Interesting actually that, because a mate of mine who's a mechanic taught me years ago. I was always struggling just pushing tight nuts and screws, and he said, no, don't do that, just give it a knock and it releases it. And yeah, it's worked every time. So little things like that you do subconsciously, you forget you've learnt it. But I know I was one for always pulling on a screw or a seized nut and wasn't getting anywhere, and it's the shock of hitting it that releases it. Okay, let's put that in there. Right, so this spring releases now. It should. There we go, it's popped off. So there's your little plate that's held in, and when you do your kickstart, that pinion comes round, spins, and then that's the stop. So that bashes against there and that's the stop. Okay, keep that over there. So now you can see that's the gear change mechanism. So that's your selector shaft, that's your secondary shaft. So that's the one that goes to the clutch, and then on the other side to the sprocket, front sprocket. And that's your gear selector mechanism there, so that turns to select the gear. Now this whole plate, I mean, they're an incredible, for a road bike of its era, from a 1980s road bike, this moved the game on, because most crankcases before this era, the gearbox, you had to split the case down the centre that way. But this, I don't know what other manufacturers did, but I do know they changed the way they did things, and it came from Grand Prix, because they're always taking gearboxes out, they were changing ratios inside the gearbox, so they had to have easy access. So literally all you do is drain the gearbox oil. They'll have dry clutches as well, which helps. So they just whip the clutch off like I've done. They wouldn't have a kickstart mechanism, so that wouldn't be there. Literally, you can see that plate, that silver plate, that's the thing that holds the whole gearbox together, and it's all mounted to that plate. So you can just undo these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nuts, and the whole thing just pulls out as one. It's an incredible adventure. And then obviously as well, you would have had to split the crankcase vertically to get to your crank as well, but you can actually, well, as you can see, I've had the crank out without even going near the gearbox. All you have to do is take the side case, drain the gearbox oil, take the side case off. So it was a real sea change, this style of crankcase and cassette gearbox. Even for like club racers, I've known people who've blown the motor, had to put a new crank in or spare crank in, and they've done it overnight. So you're at a 2-day meeting, your championship's at stake, or you're in the running for the championship, and you've got to put a crank in. You don't even need to touch the bottom end. You just take the cylinders off and the top crankcase, and away you go, you can get your crank out. So yeah, it's a big job obviously at the track, but it is doable. I've seen it done. Okay, let me just have a little look around here. Oh yeah, what we're going to do is take that circlip off, because that will stop the gearbox coming out. I'll just get the circlip pliers. Nice bit of kit. Got these from Laser, they are, but essential really for doing these circlips. So easy with one of these tools. You just do that and it's easy, rather than messing about screwdrivers and bending them. They're really handy. Right, so that's free. That shaft, drive shaft, which, let's just get the brush, just give that a little clean up. That is in really good condition, because these edges do wear and start to round, but not on this one. Another indication that the mileage is genuine. The bike's not done any real hard miles. Well within its capabilities on a road bike. Okay, so we'll turn it back round. I'm going to undo these 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that should all come out. Actually, I'll just take that off. Stopping it. Just tap it out. Yeah, that's come out. I was being too tidy for my own good, that. Okay, there we go, that's coming. There we go, here comes your gearbox. Right, there we are. Ooh. Well, we'll come back to the case. So all fine, as in, no, don't think there's any wear. The mileage is too low on the engine, but as you can see, there's a bit of rust going on. I don't think it'll cause any issues, but there we go. So the top, so because the crankcase was full of water mixed with oil, the water has caused rust, which I thought it might. That's an oil feed pipe, so that just, there's a screw there, you undo that screw, and there's that little retaining plate, and it holds the oil pipe. So basically that, the pressure of the oil in the gearbox, there's holes on the bottom side of that there, and that sprays oil over all the gearbox when the engine's running. But let's get back to, yeah, so if I spin it round, you can see there's rust, but the rust, if I get it to a certain point, very little rust there now, and then I turn it, obviously that part of the gearbox, because they've all been facing down, that's been sat in the water, which has rusted the dogs. Now do we, I think with a little TLC, get a wire wheel on all these, they should be okay. They're not the best, they're a bit, they are a little bit corroded from rust. In fact, any more bike engine gurus out there, I will put some messages on Facebook, but I'll take advice, because I've never seen this before. Bearing in mind the bike's not going to get lots of use, it's not going to be a race bike, it's just a restoration. It's basically going to sit in a garage most of its life. And also bearing in mind how expensive and rare RGV gearboxes are, unless I can get a cheap bottom end. Will that clean up? Should I just get them cleaned up? To be continued, I would say. I will readdress that on another video later, but the point of this exercise today is to strip the case to get it off for vapor blasting. So there we go. So there's the gearbox. It's manky, as you can see. It is manky. You can see all the emulsified oil that's been sat. The gear change mechanism was all right. Yeah, I mean, it's all working. There's some sludge in there. Yeah. Anyway, let's put that to one side, and we'll readdress that at a later date. Okay. Well, yet more evidence of the emulsification and water ingress. So we've just basically got, looks like caramel ice cream melted, but it won't taste like it. It's horrible, horrible stuff. I'll give that a little wipe out, because I'm not sending that to Ian, my vapor man, like that. He won't thank me for that. I'll give that a clean out. So we're literally now, there are, I'll be leaving the dowels in that locate the top engine case. You can vapor blast those as well, because you distort them when you try and get them out. That can come out. That holds the end crank bearing in place and stops sideways flow. There's another one goes in there, which is on the crankshaft, attaches to the crankshaft, sorry. just like this one. It's only raised up 0.5 millimetre, but it's just enough to stop the crank floating sideways. So keep that safe. So that's out. We'll leave those studs in, you can vapor blast those, that doesn't matter. We'll leave the dowels in, you can vapor blast those. We'll leave the engine breather in. That'll clean up as well, that'll look nice. I mean, this is the bit that's on show. And all round the neutral light, oil pump, sprocket, that'll all be lovely and clean. I'm going to take, so there's 3 or 4 bits left to take off. So gear selector, oil seal, sprocket, shaft, oil seal, retaining plate, drive shaft retaining plate, that can come out. Engine, rubber mounting shaft with its rubber, this to stop vibration or help to stop vibration, that's coming out. And then take these dowels out now. They're just locating dowels for the gearbox. That one, is that one coming out? Just get some pliers. Yes, moving. I'll just give that a pull. A bit more so it's a little bit seized in. That's it, that's out. A little bit of corrosion, that's why it didn't come out easy. Right, these studs that hold the gearbox, they can stay in. He's probably not going to vapor blast inside anyway, which is a good thing, because that bearing which holds the primary, I can't remember what you call them, there's primary and secondary gear shafts, so that holds the end of the primary to stop it floating up and down. But that bearing, you need a special tool to get that bearing out. I've had crankcases vapored before, and all he does is he just covers that up with gaffer tape, that particular bearing. This big one's got to come out, and the oil pump drive, which is only plastic, that has to come out as well. So let's turn it round. I think it just pushes out, if I remember rightly. I think it does. Yeah. Might have to refer to the manual for that one. It's a while since I've done one of these, so I have a feeling it just pushes out. But rather than look an idiot on camera and break something, I'll check that out before I do it. So I'm going to take that seal out. I'm going to start with the drive shaft retaining plate. Now these ones may not come off easily. So let's get the case steady. This might be an impact driver job, but we'll have a go. I might get a bigger screwdriver actually. Bring the big boy out. Oh no, they need a little tap. The impact driver. Yeah, guys, for £10–12, essential bit of kit for your workshop. They always come with the bits are quite big. They could do with a smaller hex bit, but I suppose anything smaller than, well, except these, usually isn't seized, but it is. I'm telling you, it is. I always have the smaller ones seized. But anyway, we'll just check That's going the wrong way. Turn it the other way. Still going the wrong way. That's it. Yeah, I don't know why it's going the wrong way. Anyway, let's just give these a little knock. That's gone. That's gone. That's gone. Right. It's going to need a little tap. There's a gasket underneath it. There we go. There we go. Yeah, there's the gasket. That was what's holding it down. Ah. Huh. Interesting. So there's our let's stand that up. There's our covering plate, which retains the O-ring. I mean, it makes no sense not to replace it. It wasn't leaking, but while it's off, I'll get that vapor blasted because it's on show. You can still see that, and we'll replace that O-ring. Just give it a bit of a clean. Yeah, we'll replace that O-ring. That does just pop out. Need to push it with a socket, so we'll do that. And that leaves us, this is interesting, that leaves us with I'll hold it that way there. That leaves us with the gasket, which goes behind that cover, and let's just give it a wipe. That's that big bearing that holds the drive shaft in place. The bearing itself, there's a little bit of noise. Yeah, it needs replace. I mean, it's coming out anyway for vapor blasting, so that gets replaced as a matter of course. I think it's a standard size from memory, because all these bearings from Suzuki are hellishly expensive. So it's not too bad. I mean, it's a whopping size bearing, as you can see. It's a whopping size bearing, that. So we're going to get that out in a minute. I haven't got a bench press for getting bearings out, so I am old school and use rods and bars, or actually, because we are scrapping that bearing anyway, I might just tap it out. Yeah, so if I heat around, I'll get this gasket off. If I heat around, the aluminium should expand enough, more than the steel bearing, and it should tap out quite easily. That I seem to remember the last one I did, it came out fairly easily. Okay, so the oil pump plastic drive literally did, I just had a bit of a practice off camera and it literally just pushed out. So there's a collar, as you can see, and I literally just got a 14mm socket inside the collar and tapped it and it fell out. So I do remember now. So that collar that wheel, the plastic wheel with that collar on, pushes from the gearbox side, and the collar from the exterior side locks it in place, just slides over like that. So that's easy. The engine, rubber engine mounts, as there you go, there you can see it's like a soft rubber corrugated thing that one either side pushes into the crankcase, and just a little shaft that goes in the middle to stop them moving side to side. So I just lubed it with a bit of WD-40, and they just pushed out. You just waggle them, get a screwdriver under it if it sticks, but that I just waggled it and it came out. So that's those two things easily sorted. Last thing is, well, two things to go. We've got the oil seal, which literally, because I'm replacing it, you just pop it out with a screwdriver, and that huge bearing that holds the sprocket drive shaft, I've heated up around, and I've already started tapping it out to see if it moves, because I didn't want to show you on video me struggling. So I've just literally warmed up the case with a hot heat gun, paint stripping heat gun. I've got a big lump hammer, and I have an old shaft, socket set shaft. So I'll just finish off that. I don't even know if you can see in there, but you literally just tap it. Let's just stand it up. You probably can't see, but I'll just tap it out. The hardest bit is holding the case so it doesn't fall over. It's nearly there, I can feel it. There we go, and she's out. It's a huge bearing. It really is. That is a huge bearing for a little 250. But yeah, I don't know if you can hear it. There's a little bit of noise. That'll be the water ingress, but more worrying is what the water's done to this seal on the outside. How strangely, there are no sizes on this bearing. So we'll have to look that up, get one ordered. Hopefully it doesn't have to be genuine Suzuki, which, as I say, cost a fortune. So really, apart from that oil seal, which I'll just pop out off camera, that's it. That's your RGV. Super dirty, extremely sludgy bottom crankcase. As I say, that bearing inside we leave in place. You need a puller that pulls it from behind. Excuse me. And you have to heat the case, but as he's not going to be blasting inside there, he just covers it all with gaffer tape. He'll do a bit in these recesses, but generally it gets left alone inside there. So all I've got to do, get the oil seal out for the gear change shaft. I'll clean up this gasket surface, get that off with the Stanley blade, and I'll give it a bit of a clean for him, because I wouldn't dare send that sludge away to the lad. That's not fair. Plus it'll get all over the inside of my van. So that's it. That's one bottom crankcase. So next time you see that, it'll look like brand new. Have a good weekend, guys. I'll see you in the next episode. So here we are with the powder coating. There it is. There's not that many items. Rear subframe. Start from this end. Rear subframe. So all the tanks and the lights attached to that. We've got the silver rear brake torque arm which holds the rear brake in place, and then in that little hole there is a bearing, a swivel bearing, universal joint. We've got the spring off the shock, which has come up absolutely lovely considering that was completely covered in surface rust. That's come out absolutely lovely. Then we've got the cans. Now, bit of a compromise on these, to be honest. You can still see the Suzuki, but you can see the little tiny pock marks because these were quite patchy with little pot marks of rust. So when they've been blasted, it's left little indentations. It's not ideal, it's not perfect, but it is what it is. They're still original. They are black chromed from the factory, but it's a bit of a tricky process to get redone. So the black Pepsi cans that I did on a previous restoration I did in powder coat, they look fine. They look almost identical. So they're not perfect, but the bike's still going to have a bit of patina on it. That's what Rob wants. Next we've got side stand. Now, Gareth, the guy who does my powder coating, he's really good. He understands bikes. So he masks up the surfaces that don't need powder coat, especially that surface there, which goes inside the slot on the side stand. Otherwise, you end up just chipping it all away. And then we've got the front subframe, which holds the front fairing on, and that slot there bolts to the front of the aluminium frame. So quite a lot of weight goes onto that. But they've absolutely come out. They've come out lovely. You can see the sheen. They're absolutely perfect and future-proof now. Completely future-proof. So that's it. That's the powder coating. Right. So here we've got the clear or silver zinc. I know it's a bit anal, but laying them all out is a good way of actually seeing if anything major is missing. You're not going to recognise the odd screw and bolt nut that's missing, but if it left a dog bone out, you'd notice that was missing. Anyway, won't run through everything, but you can see the quality, absolutely like brand new. If you've never done any zinking, re-zinking of any parts before, the main thing to take note of, or to make sure you do, is to thoroughly degrease them and clean them. I know they get done when you send them to the zinkers, but it does depend on who you send them to. And then secondly, once they're all clean, I just basically use a bit of diesel in a pot and a toothbrush and get all the muck off them. But once you've done that, I get a whizzy wheel on, for instance, on the threads, if they've got a bit of rust or corrosion on them, get a whizzy wheel on them, either on a drill bit or if you've got a bench wire wheel, and thoroughly clean them, get anything loose off them, any rust, any corrosion. And it really does pay off, because I even go to the sort of trouble of getting one of those real small wire brushes that goes into a drill bit and putting them inside the recess of where, say, for instance, this is a brake or sprocket mounting bolt, and going inside where the Allen key fits. And you can see the finish you get afterwards because of it. It absolutely like brand new, if not better, because I think the zinc's probably a little bit thicker. So I use a guy it's a bit of a word of mouth thing, but I use a guy who just does them for cash for me, where he works. It's all above board through his company, but they like a few cash jobs coming in, so you don't get charged a fortune. So I've got some, I'm going to lay out the gold zinc, because there's some parts on the bike that are gold zinc. So on an RGV, most of it's silver clear, like this. But there's quite a bit of green, olive green drab. That's away at the moment. They have to send that to somewhere different. Quite specialised, because they use a substance called chromate as the passivate, which gives it the green tinge. It's mainly things like handlebars and anything around the cockpit. So they're away at the moment down in the place in Nottingham called DDG. Should be coming back this week. So there'll be I'll be doing a little film of that. I'll add it onto this complete video. But yeah, I mean, things like the foot pegs, these are really, foot peg hanging brackets, these are really corroded and rusty. Only surface rust, because you can see they're really smooth. But cleaning them up thoroughly makes all the difference, and properly stripping them down. Like the spring, I mean, that spring in particular was quite rusty. But it's come out like brand new. The odd one, I mean, these go inside the power valves. These go on the power valve shaft, so you can't really see them. I mean, they were quite corroded, but okay, they're not super shiny, but they are coated. If you're being super meticulous, you'd probably try and buy some new, but a lot of these parts are unobtainium these days, so you just cannot get hold of them anymore, unless you buy a donor bike, but even then you're going to struggle with the quality of the finish or corrosion. There's a few washers, they're a bit corroded, but a lot of these are unseen. Once they're in on the bike, you only see the edge of them, if at all. The worst thing for me is remembering where it all goes. I've took thousands of pictures, especially, not particular of this bike, I took quite a few of this bike, but the first RGV I ever did, I went overboard on photographs and finding, giving me evidence of where things go on the bike. But what really happens is a lot of the big parts look after themselves, like, their back wheel spindle adjusters, gear linkage, dog bones, all these engine mounting bolts, they're all pretty obvious. Front wheel spindle, swinging arm shaft, rear wheel spindle, they're all very obvious. And before you know it, a lot of the parts, the daunting quantity that sits in front of you of me at the moment, a lot of it's disappeared. So you're only left with the smaller parts. So it's bad at the moment because there's so much of it in front of you, but once you get going on the bike, start building it. I tend to have a bit of a quiz with myself. So, what's that part? Oh yeah, that holds the bar ends on. What have we got there? That's a real random nut. I have a bolt. I just don't know where that goes at the moment. Obviously, headstock, wheel spindle, spacers, footrests, little pins that go inside that recess there of the footrest. So I won't run through everything, but you can see the quality. Just go in close. You can see the quality of having it done, and for 60 quid, that's what it cost me for this lot, and the gold, which I'll show you shortly. It's a no-brainer, and it makes the bike look so much better than just cleaning them and putting tarnished zinc back in. There's one or two bits, like I say, like the reed cages, yeah, pretty corroded, quite badly rusty when I took it off. And as you can see, there's a bit of pitting, but it's not going to cause any harm. And actually the back is okay, not too bad. But most of the stuff on view, like the That's the swinging arm for the chain adjustment, brake rear alignment. I mean, absolutely like brand new, super shiny. And here is the it's only a very small amount, but this is the gold zinc. So for some reason they use gold on a few real minor parts on a bike. I mean, strangely, that big piece there is the rear passenger seat subframe that the seat bolts to. Who knows why it's gold, but it is. I think the 4 big screws there to hold the coils on, and various other little bits and bobs. Oh, the springs, the 2 little springs there off the carb, tick over. Yeah, and apart from that, there's a few other smaller screws, but not a lot there. But the gold's come out really well, especially on that piece. Lovely. You can see the luster to it when I move it in the light. Look really nice when it's fitted back to the bike, and you actually do see that quite a bit, that piece, because it's got the it's underneath the passenger seat, so you take that on and off quite a bit. Yeah, so that's that. So not much of it, but nice to have it in the correct colour for those few fasteners. Right, so well, not a lot to look at, but this is the refurbished crankshaft. How noisy the bearings were because they've been water ingress and they've gone rusty. So we've got brand new 3 main bearings. So you've got left hand side, so the alternator sits on there, on that side. So we've got left hand crank bearing. They have a pin, and that's just for location, so all the bearings sit aligned and don't move. So you can see the little pin on each one. So there's a small recess in the bottom crankcase where they sit. So he's had all this apart, so you can't really see very well. It's a bit dark, but in there, there'll be new big end roller bearings. I mean, there is a bit of rust damage on the webs, but they're fine. They're fine. It's marginal. He's balanced it, and he showed me a little picture of. I'll put it up on this video. A picture of how close it was. I think it was something like 4th thou out the end float when he had it on his balancer. So it's better than factory, I think. So he's done a good job there. So he's cleaned all the con rods up. We'll have all new little end bearings in there. That's a new seal on that end. That groove is for that. I showed you on the previous video where there's like a ring, half ring of steel which stops the crank moving sideways, and then the ridge on the labyrinth seal there, you can just see the ridge where it sticks up there. That sits in the other groove on the bottom crankcase and stops the labyrinth seal going sideways like that. But yeah, brand new bearings, totally silent, nice. So we've basically got a brand new bearing wise crankshaft. Obviously the webs are a little bit water damaged, but they're fine. It'll all be fine. Right, so this bit is really exciting because this is the vapor blasting that I've had done. So all you can see on the tables, everything's aluminium, and it just comes back. It's like getting Christmas presents. Even though it's not my bike, it's just absolutely stunning when it comes back. So I'll come in closer and go through it all for you. So the crankcases, while I was having the crank done, I mean the crankcases were absolutely disgusting. But as you can see now, they are absolutely stunning how clean they are. Inside that's the bottom case where the crank sits. So like I said, those grooves earlier, sorry, the groove for the metal spline there, then the labyrinth seal sits in there, in that groove. O-ring sits that end. But I mean, that is absolutely stunning. The top of it, you remember, I'll post some pictures as we go along, but the top of that was absolutely black with thick old engine oil, two-stroke oil, petrol, and then dust, sawdust even mixed in there on the top. So that has come up like, okay, there's a bit of corrosion there, but it generally, it's absolutely superb. That top case sits on there like that. So as you can see, it's absolutely beautiful. That's that comes around there, this side here. So that's where the sprocket bearing sits. And then that cover goes on top with the gasket in between. Then we've got, that's for the water pump housing. And then the cylinders, which I've just got back actually today. They've been away for those water spigots, which were absolutely rotten. And they've been away to Sean at the tuning works. So I'd already had them vapor blasted. And as you can see, they're like brand new. So I'd already had those vapor blasted, and then I got the old spigots out, which I learned something new there. So I looked up a little video on YouTube and managed to get them out without damaging anything. So Sean's put those new spigots in, and they're pressed in with a bit of sealant around. So they're in forever now. Then we've got the heads. So I mean, the head's like absolutely like brand new inside. The bike's never been seized or anything like that. And you'll notice I've only got one power valve cover. That's because the other one, when I took it off the bike, it just snapped in half. So got my eye on one on eBay at the moment. And then we've got the two water feeds which sit. One goes upside down, one goes downwards. And that's it for engine stuff. Well, maybe you could include this. This is the water thermostat housing, so that they bolt together. But then we're moving on to the brake union for the front brake, which sits underneath the bottom yoke. That's the splitter. Rear master cylinder, which was in a bit of a sorry state, but I managed to get the cylinder out. Need to order a kit for that. Brake lever, which has come up absolutely stunning. That's lovely. Beautiful finish on that. Then we've got some various little bits and bobs I've got. That's the clutch cable adjuster. That's the mounting for the top brake reservoir. Part of the lever. Had the lever done. Just got to tidy up the end. It's got a little scratch in it, but I'll tidy that up. This is the rear suspension linkage. So there's a couple of bearings need pressing back into that, and that'll be fine. All the footrests, the fold-up footrests, they are like the day they came out of the factory. Lovely. Then we've got the fork brace, which goes on the mudguard. The two footrest hangers and back plates, they have come up stunning. They were absolutely sorry state. I didn't think they would come up that well, but they have. He's done a really good job there, Ian. Rear sprocket carrier, which gets extremely corroded. That's come up lovely, because you just can't get into those recesses with anything other than vapor blasting. So that, I mean, they've come out spectacular, really. Fork tubes. Yeah, I mean, They're not like standard because obviously they're lacquered, but the finish far outweighs being able to rub them down. A lot of people don't like that finish on fork tubes, but it's personal preferences. There's nothing wrong with it. And then finally the top yoke, the bit that you look at all the time, so that's come out. I mean, it's amazing how lovely, how beautiful. They're like works of art when they're vapor blasted. So yeah. There's a lot of vapor blasting there. Just to put you in the picture, all that vapor blasting, including the crankcases, which are a big job. So all that you can see, that was £180. So yeah, not a small amount of money, but for the effect and the amount of time it saves you, it's well worth it. And it just looks incredible when it's back on the bike. Brightens everything up, because obviously all these shiny surfaces that are hidden away inside the engine, inside the fairing, they reflect light, so it just makes the bike look so much cleaner when it's done. So it's next day actually. I've been out to collect these little beauties. So we've got, on the right hand side, we've got the rechromed fork stanchions, and the left hand side, the swinging arm that's been to a guy called Mushti for some brush polishing to get all the marks out. So the fork stanchions, I'll put a picture up again, what they were like before. Really badly rusted and pitted. No way we could have used them. So a lot of people tend to buy the pattern replacement stanchions, but as I've said previously, they only have 2 to 3 thousandths of an inch thick of chrome on them, whereas standard's about 6 or 7, and these I get done fairly locally, and they have between 10, 12, even up to 15 thousandths of an inch of chrome. So it's a lot thicker. So if I go into where that little hole is, you can see there's a bit of a rounding to the edge. That's basically the thickness of the chrome. Whereas on the pattern one, they're like real sharp edges. So they kind of runs into the hole. You can just about see that, what I'm on about, I think. So the chromes have got a real thick, luster, hard chrome it is. So, I mean, they're good for the lifetime of the bike now, as long as the bike's looked after and kept clean. Not allowed to rust again. But it's really good value. I'm not sure what the pattern stanchions cost, but to get these re-chromed, obviously I've got to strip them and rebuild the forks, but I've done quite a few sets now and it's quite straightforward, to be honest. But they're £160 to get re-hard chromed. I'm sure the replacements are dearer than that. I think they might be a couple of hundred. So it's good value and they're better quality and they're still original. So no brainer in my book. And you've got Japanese standard original quality. So the swinging arm, it's actually upside down. Let's turn it over. Right. So these originally are anodized, and you'll remember that it was quite badly, the oxidization, we'll call it. Yeah, so there were loads of little marks. There's a few remnants there because he couldn't go too deep. So, but he brush polishes it, and he's done a really lovely job. I mean, you could lacquer it, but I tend to leave it so you can at least keep the luster going. It's not an original finish, no, I know that, but it's a nice finish, and it keeps a bit of patina of the bike. So, like I say, there's the odd mark, little mark, nothing major, but it keeps that patina. Need to clean the bearings out a bit. They're a bit of a bugger to get in and out, so I'll just give them a rinse and wash them. But yeah, I mean, he's done it as usual. Musty, good bloke. Done a really lovely job of the finish. I mean, you can see the finish. It's nice. Done a good job of that. And once it's on the bike, it'll look superb. Looks like a bit of a bit. It's the difference between production factory finish and like a racer factory finish. So it's quite a nice compromise. And you'll never get a swinging arm unless it's off an almost unused bike, I would say. You'll never get a swinging arm as clean as that. So it's a real good job and well worth the money. That was £90 to get that polished back, brush polished. So he's done a nice job. It needs a bit of a clean, it's a bit dusty. But yeah. Well, here's my final delivery of parts that have been away for process. This is the olive drab zinking. So quite a specialised thing, these. Not everywhere does it. Most people do clear zinc, but this olive drab, which is kind of a bit of a trademark or of this era. So late 80s, early 90s Japanese bikes, especially the two strokes on the four and the little four strokes, the 400s. So it's a bit of a unique process because most zinc's clear. I think the problem with it is it's getting banned because the substance they use, which is called chromate for the passivate, which makes the zinc go green, I think it's highly carcinogenic. So there are not many places actually do them. And if you notice the colour, it's what McDonald's use for all their metal furniture, which is a bit random, I know, but that's where you'll mainly have seen it, apart from on bikes. But yeah, I'm not going to go through them all again like the other stuff, but there's the odd thing that just don't look right if you do them in clear zinc. I mean, they're nuts and bolts, screws, washers. You'd probably have got away with it. But things like the little brackets, they're all on show and they're all green. The clips for the carbs and the airbox, the top of the shock, the adjuster, see the numbers on it there. These go into the end of the swinging arm for the rear wheel adjustment. Fairing brackets, obviously the clock's around the main one because you look at it all the time. And radiator brackets, handlebars you see all the time. Then all the little bits and bobs, the beautiful radiator bracket there that holds the top of the radiator, that's come out lovely. So yeah, it's a bit of a pain having to split them and send them to somewhere different, because I had to send these away to Nottingham by courier and then the couriered back. So you've got all that expense, which was over about 25 quid there and back. But the bike looks so much more original rather than just doing it clear zinc. So if you're doing a proper 90s Japanese bike restoration, olive drab zinking is, well, it's a necessity really. So we're all systems go now. It's been really exciting getting all the stuff back, and I can start building little sub-assemblies, as Mr. Alan Milliard calls it all, so you can bolt them all on. But the main thing is I can get the chassis up now because I've got the swinging arm back. I've got the, like I say, I've got the mount, the top mount for the rear shock, powder coated the spring, the bottom, there's some small bottom bracket collars there in clear zinc, so and I can get the forks rebuilt. So
just do a small film about putting the rear shock back together. So as you can see, in front of us we've got powder coated spring, the damper body which has been rubbed down and resprayed satin black, the locking nut, the bottom bracket which attaches to the linkage on the swinging arm, the bottom retaining washer which sits underneath the spring and the collar that goes above that, the rubber damper which goes there on the shot, on the damper itself, the rubber bung, and then the rezinked, well they're all rezinked, the green olive drab rezinked adjuster which sits underneath that protruding notch there, and as you turn it, it preloads the spring. And I've had to do this, I've had to buy the specific motorcycle spring compressors. So they go either side on the spring and you tighten them up and it compresses the spring, and then you slide it over the damper with the collar at the top and it all pieces together. So this is actually the first time I've ever done this, so I'm on a learning curve as well. So hopefully this will be useful information for anybody who wants to refurbish. I'm not going to say rebuild, because the damper is actually working fine. That didn't need any work, believe it or not. Usually they're shot, but because the bike's such low mileage, well, not such low mileage, 10,000 miles, which is still quite low, the shock damper is in good condition and still damps. So we didn't have to send it away to a suspension specialist to rebuild that bit, which is tricky because apparently only specialists can get them apart. So we're in a good place, and I will attempt to put it all back together. It should be straightforward. So here goes now. Okay, so I have got the spring compressors either side. I know it's not pretty. They're not easy to keep straight, actually. So I've tested it and it's compressed enough now so I could get everything on and get the locking nut on at the bottom. So what we do first, what I can do first is the adjuster at the top, the adjuster ring, slide that on, very careful, and I will set it on number 1, which is the lowest setting, which would mean, if you can see there, that's high, number 7's high, 1 is low. So if we put it on number 1, that would give us the biggest distance, because if it was on 7 it would push the collar, effectively push the damper through the collar. So I will then slide the spring over. It's a little bit bent because I've not got the compressors perfectly straight, but it'll go. It's a little bit scary because obviously these springs hold a lot of power. So that's that. Then the rubber damper slides on like that. Next is the retaining collar ring. It's got that step on it which sits there. Then actually at the same time,
Then the retaining locking nut below the washer that actually goes inside the washer and in a recess on the rubber bung. There we are, it's inside now, sits nice and snug. I took the collar and the washer off, it was easier to do it. So that's that in place. Then the washer and collar slide back on underneath the spring. And finally the linkage that connects to the bracket that connects to the linkage screws on the outside. So there we have it complete now, with the top adjusted ring, the spring, the rubber damper, the locking nut, the collar, the big washer, and the bracket that goes to the suspension linkage. Now all we need to do is unscrew the compressor tools, and that would put pressure, let the spring off and put pressure and hold it all together. So there we are, that's one refurbished spring. And what a huge improvement over the original, which was rusty. All the zinc parts were getting rusty. So for very little money, because we haven't had to send it away to the specialist, so a little bit of zinking, all part of the vast box of zinc, and get the spring refurbished and spray the damper, and there we go. A huge improvement and looks great on the bike. And here it is, fitted to the bike. I think you'll agree, it's a huge improvement over the old rusty, sorry for itself shock absorber as when the bike came in. It looks lovely there, especially with all the nuts and bolts all re-zinced as well. Just go underneath, see the bottom of it there. Yeah, so for very little money. Hey guys, well, here we are at probably the biggest job on the bike, which is building the engine up. So you can see we've got left to right, we've got the kickstart mechanism, primary drive, gear, gearbox behind the big crankcase, the top crankcase, then the clutch basket, flywheel and the generator, and finally the crank in the centre. So this is the tricky bit for most people, and it's been tricky for me. I've just learned over the years. So I'll try and take you through it as methodical as I can, and hopefully it'll be of some use to you RGV boys out there and the Aprilia guys, because it's the same engine. As I always say, I'm self-taught and I've learned these things by making mistakes, basically. So if I do anything wrong to you people who know exactly what you're doing, please tell me in the comments, and hopefully next time I'll do things correctly. So here goes. So I've got the new gasket in. This is where the drive shaft comes out for the sprocket. So the new gasket is underneath. The seal's back in, and the cover is on with the 4 screws, which I've got a bit of thread lock on. Brand new gearbox, gear change, oil seal. They always leak just because they move so much. And if I just tip it over, I've pressed the that new main bearing there for that's behind that oil seal and that cover. So that's a brand new bearing, which, as you can see, is lovely, quiet. So next stage now is getting the gearbox itself into this space. So I've assembled the gearbox again, cleaned all these gears up. You remember they were rusty. Everything's had a good clean. It was only surface rust. So primary drive shaft is in. Secondary, the drive shaft, primary shaft, drive shaft, and the Kickstart idler gear on the back. And I've temporarily put the gear change selector on, fitted on the back with the mechanism, just to the lever on this end, just so I can hold to change gear. So you'll see now it's in neutral. So there's neutral. So if that one turns, it doesn't turn the drive shaft. Primary shaft turns, doesn't turn the drive shaft. Two idler gears just spin in the middle. So if I go, that's first. So first is engaged, and you'll see how how slowly the drive shaft goes around. So we'll go back up to neutral. There's neutral again. Second, third, fourth, fifth. That might be sixth actually, might have skipped one. Fifth, sixth. So next thing to do is put the oil pump drive on. That slots in there, and get this into the crankcase. Now I've got the gearbox in with the oil pump drive as well, and the gear linkage is on and functioning. Been through all the gears again while it's in place. So now it's a matter of 7 nuts apart from the one where the kickstart mechanism goes. You put that on last, and we do these up between 8 and 12 newton meters, so set the torque wrench to 10. So these can go on. So they're all nipped up, just loose hand tight. So set to 10, which is bang in the middle. Like I said before, 8 to 12 newton meters. So we've got this set on 10. So the next job, before I put the kickstart gear in, is in there. This bush for the oil pump. Just put a bit of oil on it, and that keeps the oil pump true, the oil pump drive true. Just push it in there. Might need a little tap actually. Yeah, that's flush now. We'll spin it round again. So now it's a case of pushing the kickstart drive on. Actually, just before that, before I forget, I'll put the oil feed pipe back in the gearbox. You'll notice it's got holes on one side. They need to face downwards to the gearbox, so that sprays, as the oil circulates around the bike, that sprays oil. So there's on the outside, it goes through that hole there. So on the outside there's a little hole which will suck oil through to behind the gearbox plate. So I'll just make sure that's upside down, so we turn it 180. And it has to locate at the back. That's it, it's gone in. There's a little recess in the other side of the crankcase where it locates. And then it's just a matter of
screwing this retaining clip over the top. A bit fiddly because it wants to turn. That's it. And once this is tight, that won't move. So the next job is to put the kickstart mechanism in, which goes in that recess there. There's a stopper plate. That stopper plate there bashes against that piece of metal bracket there. So that goes in like that. The springs wrap around under tension and go over the final gearbox mounting bolt. That's why it's so long. So there's a spacer first, goes in there, and then the kickstart mechanism goes on with some tension. So I'll put that on now. So that's now fitted, pushed fully back with the 2 springs around the spacer and the locking nut torqued up to 10 Newton meters. Okay, so now I'm going to fit the crankshaft into the bottom crankcase and then mount the top crankcase with these bolts, as if that's the primary drive gear and all the bits that go with it, and then that's the shim that goes in the crankcase there, and that's the oil seal that goes in the left hand side crankcase, a lot of the crankcase. So I've got the crankshaft in, the C-ring is underneath that bearing to go in that groove. I've oiled the mains, and the pins on each bearing sit in those recesses there, you can see. And then the oil seal is in its groove at this end with a bit of 3-bond around the bottom, and then I've 3-bond Suzuki bonded the top mating surfaces and a little bit around the seal as well. So yes, I'll put that on now and I'll fit it with these bolts. Okay, so that's the crankcase all bolted down, torqued up, so you have to do them in a diagonal fashion. So there's initial tightening and then an extra tightening once they're all down to a certain level. I have also, just turn it round, I've put the primary drive gear on and torqued that up. I held the con rod with some wood and a bar through, so that's torqued up to, it's between 60 and 80 Newton meters, so I did it at 70. So that's all good, and the tab washer is knocked over there. And moving on to now fitting the clutch. So that's the next job, clutch to go in there. Okay. Here's the clutch and the components. So we've got the basket, the inner basket with hold the plates and the steels, the cover and springs, and these are the shims. So one goes behind the basket, the sleeve goes inside,
that shim sits on top, and then we've got the nut and lock washer which locks the centre. So I'll assemble that now and show you what it looks like fitted. Well, here's the clutch fitted to the crankcases, and the centre nut, I've got a clutch holding tool, so I've locked the inner and torqued up the centre nut and knocked the tab over. So we're just ready for the pressure plate, clutch springs and the screws that hold that in together. Then when this is done, next stage is to build the top end, so put the cylinders on, pistons in, cylinders on, heads on, power valves fitted. Right, so I have now got to the stage where I fitted the neutral light switch, so that's hard. Actually, the resin on the top, it's sealed with resin, but the resin on the top, a lot of it was crusted away and dried out, so I'll just use some epoxy 2-part glue, resin glue, and refilled that and left it overnight, and that's perfect. That's how it should be now. So that's all filled and sealed again. It's had a new O-ring on the back of it, brand new genuine part O-ring while it was off, easier to do that. And I've now also got the magneto on with the stator inside and the pickup coils. They've gone on. One of them's earthed and the other one has a feed through that space in the case to the secondary pickup. And then that flywheel is torqued up with some stud and bearing locking fluid, and I've also put in the engine spacers for that's how it gets mounted. So next I'm going to put the oil pump on, and then we're going to build the top end. Right, I'm going to fit the oil pump. I've already refitted all 4 leads, so the long ones go to the cylinders, the long ones go up that gap, through the middle, round, and one goes to the top cylinder, one goes to the bottom cylinder, and then the other ones go through the little gap there. There's a hole, there's a plate that goes over it all, and there's a hole in the plate, and they go past the neutral switch, underneath the engine, and to the crankcase feeds on the front. So one goes to the left side, one goes to the right side. So to put the oil pump on, there's a gasket which goes on the back of the oil pump like that. I don't think it matters which way around the writing is. Okay, and then there are 2 screws, one short, one long, because the pump's, it's flat on that side and that side's thicker, so it needs a longer screw. And then there's the feed. I put some brand new pipe on that because the old one broke off because it was so brittle. There's the feed for the oil that comes in from the tank, and those 3 hoses route up through that space in the crankcase there. So I need to position the oil pump like so it's actually easier to feed the hoses through and then fit the pump easier said than done. It's so much easier to do all this on the bench with the engine rather than trying to fiddle once it's in the bike. It's an absolute nightmare to fiddle on the bike. Tricky enough on the bench. Then there's a sleeve. Then you'll notice they're different lengths. Just tuck them under that. They're different lengths because one goes to the top cylinder here to the side of the cylinder, and the other one goes right around the front to the bottom cylinder. So yeah, there's this sleeve which you fit over them. There we go, they're both through. Yeah, and they sit kind of there, and then there's a clamp. Once you put the rubber inlet manifold on, there's a clamp that clamps to that bottom right corner, so that's good. They're in place for now. I'll just tuck them neatly away like that. Let's just stand the engine up. There's one more little procedure. So engine stood up there. So yeah, over here, just to protect these pipes, you'll see there's two holes there. Just to protect these pipes, there's a plate that I've had re-zinced. Covers both of those, and it sits there like that. Just need to manhandle the hoses. There we go. It sits there like that with two screws, which protects the hoses. So they just screw in place and hold that cover on. Snip them up. That's it. So that plate protects those hoses, and then they go into the crankcase. And like I said before, the shorter one goes into the cylinder up there, or about there I think, and this one similarly goes into this cylinder here. And there's a couple of clamps as it comes along the crankcase, once the crankcase covers on, to hold it in place. So that's all the oil pump fitted. Well, here we've got the first cylinder head, power valves, all the gaskets, fasteners, etc. ready to put together. So I'll be fitting the piston rings. Rings are on the piston already actually, so I'll be fitting the piston and small end bearings, etc. first. Then I'll be fitting the power valves to the cylinder, and then lastly the cylinder goes on and the head. So the first thing to do is put in the piston. I've cleaned all this up because they're really coked up, so I've given it a rub down and flattened everything off. It's in good condition, really good condition. Cleaned all the rings, cleaned the ring grooves out. So literally it's just a matter of refitting this. I always keep a little bit of two-stroke oil just for lubricating things as I build it. So we have the gudgeon pin, circlip, small end bearing, and the two shims that go either side of the bearing. They sit either side. So you'll notice there's a directional arrow on a piston. So that directional arrow points to the front of the bike. So you always make sure you've got that pointing forwards. Then you get the small end bearing lubricated, as I said, and you put those on either side, the shims, and they'll sit there on the con rod. The oil just holds them in place. And next thing is to get our piston, and slide it over. So it can be a little bit tricky because the shims want to move. So you slide your piston over the shims and hold that in place, and then you fit your gudgeon pin. That's it, that's popped in now. And you push that all the way home. I just use my finger there. So we've got the small end bearing, the shims and the gudgeon pin in place. Then it's a matter of fitting our circlip that stops the gudgeon pin moving sideways and slamming into the bore. So then we put the piston circlip in. These can be a bit tricky. And you make sure that the end of the piston circlip is slid round past the gap. That's in now, so that's the piston in. You'll notice I've got some toweling. That's just in case you drop anything into the crankcases while you're fitting the piston. So if the shim fell in, or usually the piston clip, I've never had it happen, but I've always put rags down to stop it happening. But you can get them out with a magnet if you're lucky, but a lot of the time you've got to take the crankcase apart, take the top off to get the thing out of the crankcase, which is a pest. I'm going to build the power valves into the barrel. So they come in two halves and they sit in the barrel like that. These are 2-stage Mark 1 power valves. They're in really good condition. The later VJ22 bikes have a 3-stage guillotine, which do wear considerably more than these. These are quite reliable. So they're together now, the two halves, and you put the collars over the top and the bar that holds them together in, and then they slide in as a pair. There we go, that's it. So I've got the actuating arm, spring and don't know what you call it, bobbin in place. I couldn't really show how I did that. It's just because it's so fiddly getting the arm through the spring and holding it enough to get the bobbin through the middle. So it's on. You basically just have to twist the spring open and push the arm through, but it's very fiddly. You have to use you need 3 hands really. So next I'm going to fit this retaining screw and washer. Yeah, I know it's a bit rusty, but it's the original one, so it's going on. Well, it's pitted, it's not rusty, it's all re-zinced. So that goes there with a bit of thread lock, only a tiny drop because you need to be able to get it out, and it holds that arm in place. So I'll fit that, and then the wheel, the actuating wheel, as you can see, that's got another arm on it which goes into the spring and sits over the top like that. And then there's the screw and washer, which is again thread locked in place. So I'll fit all that, and when that's done I'll show you that. So that's all fitted now. The wheel, the retaining bolts, thread locked in. Just turn it round so you can see how the spring works. So that closes the power valve with its tension. So that's one done, and I'll fit the barrel. So base gasket, barrel over the piston, cylinder over the piston, and then head gasket and head on top. So there's the base gasket in place over the piston. The two dowels which position the cylinder straight are in place as well. So it literally is just a case of sliding the barrel over. I'll lubricate the piston a bit more on the rings, and we'll slide the barrel over, get it bolted down. So that's the barrel torqued down, and the head gasket's on there. It goes the correct way, where the big slot in the gasket corresponds with the big slot in the cylinder. So I'm just going to fit the head now, and there are 3 plain nuts that hold it on, and 2 dome nuts with copper washers underneath. And finally, with this left hand cylinder, there's the power valve cover to fit, so there's a gasket. Oh, one last thing, I like to put, there's the gasket for the power valves. I put a little thin layer of grease around that on both sides. Then you can get at the power valves without ruining the gasket. I mean, they're only £5 each, but you can get them off if you want to just clean out inside the power valves, which does get clogged up with unburnt and burnt, usually burnt actually, 2-stroke oil and mixture gunk. So it's handy to be able to take that cover off without ruining it. So I've got the water connector, brand new O-ring in there from the gasket set that comes with the gasket set. So that the top one clamps on upside down, so it faces upwards, and the bottom cylinder actually goes the other way. So I'll be fitting that now, and then it's onto the right hand lower cylinder, which I will show you when it's fitted. Well, I finally got there with the engine, and isn't she a beauty? It makes such a difference getting everything re-zinced and vapor blasted, properly cleaned up. It's an absolute thing of beauty once an engine's this clean. It's took a few days, I don't mind admitting it, but I'm really pleased how she's come out. Got the oil pipes on, the oil feeds for the crankcase. You'll never see an engine this clean. Probably not even new from the factory, to be honest, because they're just not as bright, the zinc, and the vapor blasting's made it even cleaner. I'm in my kitchen, so excuse the chairs everywhere and whatever. Really is a thing of beauty if you're into these sort of things, which I am. Just got some tissue in the inlet ports just to save anything getting into the motor. Yeah, really pleased how it's come out. So next stop is fitting the engine into the frame, which is another exciting day, and probably the biggest. Building the engine and fitting it to the bike is probably the biggest part of a restoration, especially when you've had it down to the bare crank like this one. It's been a long job. Not too bad time-wise because I got myself organised, but yeah, it's well worth it. I think you'll agree. the final product, finished article. Will do this restoration justice. Actually, nobody else is helping me. Right, so as you can see, all the front end forks are in. A bit of tape there just protecting it from the stand. Yokes are in, horn, top fairing bracket, clocks are on. I'll just move around. The biggest job that's happened lately since I built the engine is I've got it in the frame. So the lower mounting subframe is in there and all torqued up and bolted in. I'll just move around so we can get away. Yeah, there we go. So you can see clocks are in place, switch gears on. This right hand one, I've got another one because it's not very good, so I'm going to replace that. Left hand one's not too bad, just the buttons, and the yellow button's not very good. Then as we scroll down there, you can see the engine in place, looking lovely, shiny. Rear shocks in there, the lovely green olive drab zinc. There we go, that's looking great. And as we pull back, you'll see the swinging arm, which has been brush polished. That's all in place. Got the chain there ready to go on DID. And rear subframe, so that's ready for mounting all the tanks, oil tank, coolant tank. Here it is from the left hand side. Looking nice. The plastic side cover, they always discolour a little bit. I think it's all down to the heat and things leaking on them, but they shouldn't be painted. So I've just cleaned it up best I can, give it a scrub back. Clock's looking good. And the top yoke looks marvellous. Now it's in place. Lovely jubbly. So the next big job will be, I think, get the wiring loom in. And there is the wiring loom. So I've cleaned it end to end. And I've retaped a few bits and bobs on it. Some of the ends of the tape weren't very good. Just give it a really thorough clean. Got inside all the bullet connectors, degreased them and cleaned them. So yeah, not much to look at, but very time consuming. I think it took me about 2 hours just to clean it and tidy it up. But that's going in the frame. Next job, which I hate doing, but somebody's got to do it. Okay, so I've got some of the wiring loom, well, not the wiring loom, but the battery box is in place there, which you'll see. Now it's integral to get the battery box in because there's the CDI and the other one, I can't remember what either of them are called, to be honest. So there's a CDI box that side, and you'll see there's another box that side, and some more electricals attached. I'll come round. Some more electricals attached there. And then I've got the loom. I've got the loom placed, ready. So that green connector there has to go up there. So all this on the end goes to the front. So indicators and headlight, etc., and some switch gear. So they need to go through that hole there. The loom then runs down there. A lot of it clips to that clip, and it all meets in the battery box and goes there. And then there's some more at the back of the loom. Let me just get that. So that stuff there goes to the back, so it's indicators and tail light. And we've got some other bits that go to battery box, oil sender unit, etc. So I've also got, while we're here, I've got the tanks on, the oil tank, water tank there. I've got the lock in place, the seat lock, and I've got the seat unit, which is cool, beautiful. That's in gold, zinc. So that's attached. So there's a few bits coming on now. So after many, many hours of fiddling, connecting, reconnecting, undoing, etc., etc., I've managed to get the wiring loom in, and I'm happy with the routing of it all and how it all fits. Connectors there under the seat look good. Around this side I've got, there's another clip just to clip all that up yet. That goes there. I'll do that in a minute. This side's all connected. I'll have to admit, the CDI and the other box, I put the wrong way around. So all the wires are coming out the front when they need to go out the back, so they can go into the back of the battery box. But that's what it's about. You keep learning on these jobs. So the wire goes to the back for the lights and the indicators. The seat release for the rear seat, that's all tied in with the loom with those clips. And then I've got all the coils, the two coils. The lid's got to come back off that, but that's the throttle cable and the power valve actuator, where all the cables and oil pump and carb cables come. Lid's on it for now. And then I've got the power valve motor and some wiring up this side. Yeah, so that is a really horrible, tricky job. You just gotta be patient. If it starts to annoy you, walk away and come back and do a bit more a bit later. So next, I'm thinking, next bigger jobs are getting the footrest hangers on. So I'm going to build up those sub-assemblies for left and right side. So that's the gear change, rear brake on the other side. And here's the front where all the wiring goes back into the instrument, clocks and instruments. Horn down there, indicators each side. That little box there is the flasher unit. So all nice and neat. The clocks look good. The back of the clocks with the olive drab zinc look great. And that bracket's been repainted, looks nice. And obviously the powder coating of the front subframe looks lovely. Love powder coating. Such a great process. Beautiful rechrome forks as well. Absolutely lovely. It's getting there. It's looking good. Well on the way now. Here we've got the sub-assembly for the right hand side footrest hanger. So rear brake light switch, rear master cylinder, footrest, and I'll put a picture up now and you'll see how bad it was originally. So really good to see how it's all come out. A thing of beauty really, isn't it? Really is a thing of beauty. I'll just flip it over and you'll see, look, there's the brake light. There's the master cylinder with the olive drab linkage. That's been re-zinced. All the screws re-zinced. Spring at the bottom's not the best, but it has been re-zinced. Just come up lovely. I mean, the vapour blasting on the backing plate on the master cylinder is lovely. So really happy with that. Left hand side next. So here's the left hand side footrest hanger and foot peg. A lot more simple than the right hand side one. But it's just come out lovely, the vapour blasting. There's a little bit of, zoom in there. There's a little bit of pitting on the aluminium, but overall, considering the state of the bike, it's come out lovely. Especially the little drilled heel plate, love that. And then we've got the two rear passenger footrests and the mounting bolt. You see they're quite long. That's because they also are the mounting points for the where the silencers and the exhausts attach. So they go through the rear subframe, and then there's a couple of washers either side that holds the exhaust on. They're lovely. I just love that. Just love the vapour blasting, really do. And then we've got the gear linkage. Yeah, again, all re-zinced. Lovely. Managed to get the rubber back on okay. They're a bit of a bugger to not destroy when you're removing them. But there they are, so it's all there. Lovely finish on that zinc. Great. Right, so I've fitted the gear linkage. It's not on properly yet because I might need to just adjust it slightly. Just need to get the chain on, which means getting the back wheel done. So they're all interlinked, these processes. So yeah, gear linkage is on. And then the lovely, which looks great now it's on the bike, the left hand footrest hanger there. So starting to take shape, left hand side looking good. And here is the right hand side, which I think you'll agree once it's on the bike now, because it's all vapour blast, everything's lovely and clean. It really has turned out nice. Just pan round there so you can see the footrest hangers in association with all the rest of the bike. I absolutely think this looks great. It's getting really exciting now, this bike, taking shape. So if we just zoom out there, yep, looking good. So next episode I will be getting all the back end in, the mudguard, getting all the lights on at the back. Probably move on to getting all the hoses. So the hoses attaching to the engine and the top there, and on the bottom cylinders, get all those hoses on. Reinstate the clutch cable, do the dreaded power valve cables, these things. Not pleasant to do, but much easier to do on the bench with the bike. Relatively free of clutter like airbox and things like that. one of the jobs that we all hate doing on our RGVs, but has to be done. Has to be done properly as well. So getting your, once you've set it and you turn the key as this, so I'll just turn the key so you can see it moving. So once, as you turn the key, have your other hand, as you turn your key, have your other hand up the exhaust port there, and you can feel the power valves, and you just want to feel that when it's when they're fully open, that it's flat, which these are, and thankfully they're right on the the marks for setup. So you do that small slot and make sure the circle's right in the middle, and make sure there's a bit of play in the cable, a couple of mil. Not the easiest thing to do, and I hate doing it myself, and I've done it hundreds of times, but there we go. But all looking good. The engine is looking fantastic. Can't wait to hear her going. Well, here's all the hoses. Well, bar one, I've fitted one already, but these were very, very dirty and in ground with grease, dust, you name it. So it took quite a while of scrubbing with detergents and some Sif. It's got some granulation in it to get them clean, and then wipe down with some cellulose just to bring back the sheen to them, really. So gonna fit all these this morning, and I'll show you how they look when they're on, along with the Jubilee clips, which, as you know, most of you have got an RGV, around the screw threads, if the bike's been left for any length of time in a damp environment, they go rusty. So I've cleaned them all up. There's one or two that aren't brilliant, but most of them have cleaned up lovely. Yeah, that's come out well. So with them being stainless, it really helps. Right, so I've got all the hoses bar one in place, and you'll also notice, oh there we go, there's the hoses. So up to the thermostat for this long one, just come around that side. Top cylinder down to the union. So there's the water pump. The same union goes to the bottom cylinder down there, just above the power valves. So they've got water pump in and out. So the top one there goes to the radiator, the bottom of the radiator. Goes all round the radiator and then comes back via the cylinders back into the water pump there to get pumped around again. I'll just go around the other side. So I've got the top union there, so the thermostat is in there, that's the thermostat housing, goes into the top cylinder. And then I'm going to put the radiator on here onto the newly olive drab zinc bracket. And then that's the water system done, just needs filling with fluid. And I'll just double check all the unions that everything's tight. And also, while I'm on it, I put this exhaust on, the top cylinder exhaust, because it's a pig to get at once the radiator's on. So I've fitted that, so that's got the brand new re-zinced, you can just about see it's green there, green olive drab manifold. So there's 3 gaskets in there, one goes to the cylinder, 2 inside in between the manifold and the exhaust. These were pretty manky, these exhausts, so I spent many an hour rubbing them down.
I'll put a picture, before and after picture up in a second. So I've rubbed them down, wire brush on the drill bit outside in the garden, just so the dust doesn't go everywhere. And I've sprayed them with high temperature paint, black paint, so they've refurbished beautifully, really. You can still see Suzuki there, so that's a nice job. And all mounted at the back. You can still see the Suzuki engraving or stamping on the silencer, and then the rear passenger footrest holds that on with the screws on the back. There's the radiator. You might have spotted that. So there's the radiator. I've cleaned it and flushed it out quite extensively, so that's doesn't even need painting. It's in really good patina condition, so that's going bolting straight on. Yeah, so all the little nitty gritty bits really coming together now. Oh, overflow hose has gone in place of the new hose clip, and that feeds all the way to the back, to the hose, to the water tank there. That's the overflow. So there's an overflow for the oil tank on the back side. It all connects and goes to a drain down on the other side. So yeah, coming together. Right, now I've got the radiator on, the top hose, exhaust down the left hand side, as you can see. Let's put the little fairing bracket on. If we go round to the other side, there's the radiator again. All the hoses in place now. This was a bit of a pig, getting the bottom cylinder exhaust on. I've actually learnt something new again, which you never stop learning no matter how much you work on the same sort of bike. The bottom cylinder exhaust would go on a lot easier if you put it on first. So I've learnt that lesson, but they're looking great. That high temperature paint really has done a great job. And then we've got the footrests on the back holding the exhaust on, and the lovely, sorry about the fingers, lovely powder coated can. And I always like this little bracket. It's an unusual little bracket, bolts on with the footrests, and it's for the overflow. So there's one in there already. That's I'm still not sure. I've had it round the other way twice, but if you have it the other way, you can see it there. So it feels right like that, but also feels like it's stuck out a bit far, but I'm not sure on that one yet. I'm gonna have to root through all my old pictures on other bikes and see how it goes. But yeah, looking really good. Okay, so I'm just about to fit. Well, I'm putting the carbs together, so new seals, some clean jets, but I've just assembled the reeds in the cages. There they are. I know the curved stopper plate is a little bit pitted, but at least it's all been cleaned up and re-zinced, so at least it's clean, tidy. So there's the lower cylinder is a vertical reed cage, and the rear cylinder, left hand cylinder, as you can see, is horizontal. I think that's just to keep the engine narrow. I would imagine it's part of keeping the engine narrow and fitting into the case, because if you had a wide one, it'd force everything further out, oil pump, water pump, etc. So that's probably the reason they did that. Yeah, so there's the reed cages.
And now there's the right hand side manifold, and there's the left hand side one. So the like, I don't know what Suzuki call it, I can't even remember, I should look it up really, but the old Yamaha energy induction system was a bottle after the carb, before it goes into the cylinder. And this is the same sort of system, but that they use a pipe, and the pipe attaches, it's a loop of a pipe, goes all the way around the frame, goes all the way around the frame up there and round and back down, and attaches on the other side. So yeah, that's the same type of system as that Yamaha YEIS, Yamaha Energy Induction System. Seem to remember on my RD125LC. So I'm just going to bolt these down with the freshly zinced large head, jizz head screws. So exciting developments as we move on. Just thought I'd show you the exciting bit of the carbs are on and in place. And there we are. Carbs in place. Just got to rig up the throttle cables because I'm changing the, I think I mentioned earlier, I'm changing the switch gear on the right hand side because I've got a better one. That one's a bit battered. So carbs are in place, choke cables are in place. There we are. Tick over, you can just see the tick over knobs down there. I'll go around the other side in a minute. Both carbs in place, all the drain hoses have replaced. They are clear on the originals, but I couldn't get any clear, so black it is, but it looks nice and neat. All the overflows going over to the, hard to see, I'll do that from the other side, but yeah, looking good. The energy induction pipes are in around there. We're not that far off from being able to start the thing up. I'm going to wait until I get the wheels on though, to be fair, to make the bike more stable, but we could actually start it on the bench. It's just a little bit precarious with it being on the stand there, but it's getting exciting. I'm really looking forward to hearing this thing go. It'll be great. Oh, one nice little touch I've made up. I've been able to rescue the original spare fuse holder. So that straps on with the battery strap. And it was broken there, but I've managed to clean it up with some degreasing and some cellulose thinners. And I've just used some tape and taped it back together because it was split, but that's where it sits. It looks lovely in between those. Looks lovely in between the battery box arms there. So just a nice little thing to be able to save on the bike, keeps the originality. Not very happy the battery's got a red top to it, but it's a small thing. It's still the right battery. So yeah, not far off now. Let's just go around the other side, show you what I meant. Yeah, there's the two tick over adjuster knobs in place. Nice and neat. The bracket there re-zinced. There we are, fitted that right hand switch gear. I think you'll agree it looks so much better. Beautiful. Oh, and a few more little bits. Oil pump cables in place. Fuel lines are in place, so that goes to the tank. One for each carb. The little filters are in the carbs, the little inline filters. Anything else to report? Not too sure. got a nice throttle, snaps back. Oh, I've balanced the carbs so they open at exactly the right time and together, so that's good. Can't wait to hear it run. So I didn't do any filming of it, but I've restored the wheel, so a really good clean rub down and 2 coats of etch primer, all masked up there where the disc fits. Both front and rear wheels. Then I took the wheels down to the local auto body paint suppliers and got the exact gunmetal grey metallic mixed. So it's had 2 coats of that gunmetal grey on both wheels, and then some satin lacquer, a couple of coats of that over the top, and I painted the discs while I was at it, and I think you'll agree they've turned out absolutely beautiful. I'm absolutely made up with them. The colours are spot on, so couldn't really do much better at home. Luckily the weather was really hot, so the paint went on well, so made up with those. Take them home now, get them fitted, get the bike rolling, get it started. Happy days. Well, I've just wheeled the RGV Chic outside because I've just swapping over my track bike. Sorry about the noise, I'm out the front of my house. I've just moved the track bike onto the bench because I've got a little bit of work to do on it before my next track day, but first time this bike's rolled since I stripped it, so I'll just go in, and as you can see, got the beautiful wheels in with fresh rubber. So we're on Bridgestone Batlax 090 on the front, all the original calipers. I've not painted these because they've got a nice bit of patina on them. Lovely and clean, new pads. Discs have been painted. Wheels, which I've shown you before, absolutely made up with those. Excuse me. Then there's the original brake lines. Now you might say why I'm using the 30-year-old brake lines, but they are original, and that's how Rob, whose bike it is, that's how he wants it. So I'll just go around the bike. So there you can see a nice fresh cockpit area. Looking lovely. Engine, carbs. I've not tried to start the bike yet. I will be doing in this video a bit later on. I was going to show you. There's a gleaming motor. All the pipes fitted. See a bit better outside now. Let's go around the back. Just got the bolt sticking out where the paddock stand's been connecting. All brakes freshly bled. Brand new back tyre. Water tank absolutely came up beautifully clean. I've made up with that. Brand new chain, sprockets. There's the engine from the other side. Yes, she's not like brand new. I appreciate that, especially the frame. Still got a few little marks on it, but it's got patina, which is correct for the era of the bike, the age of the bike. Rob doesn't want it like new, but some things have to be like new, like the fork stanchions, better than new. As I've said previously, that chrome's a lot thicker than original. So yeah, looking good. Just waiting for the plastics more than anything, the plastics and the paintwork from my painter Mark. But I'll be attempting to start the bike before then.
So that'll be the next little chapter in this video. Well, it's an exciting day today because I've picked up the paintwork and I'm so happy about that. I'm going to flip the camera around now. It's a lovely hot day, 22 degrees, and the paintwork's looking smashing. I'll just flip it round and see what we've got. So there we are. Lovely, beautiful stuff. It's such a cool paint job because at first look, it looks just black, but when you get close to it, I'll just go to the side panel that has been repaired and painted, and then you'll see it's gunmetal grey metallic above with black below and silver graphics. It's a stunning paint colour scheme, something a bit different. I think this is why Rob wanted to buy it, because they're so rare and different. So I'll just run through what we've got. So start at the back. So the tailpiece, both of those have been painted. One of them was okay, but to get them to match, I think, yeah, they've been painted, yeah. And there's the other one. So we've had the graphics kit from Imageworks, who we always use in Derbyshire, and they do an amazing job, because some of these graphics kits are quite complicated, and to replicate 80s graphics kits is really good. We've got the red number board running up on top, the little tailpiece thing, and the back panel with the Suzuki logo on it. Neither of those have been painted, just buffed up. Because I mean, I think I've said before, but the whole point of this bike was to have a bit of patina. So this side panel has had paint because it's been repaired. There was a great big crack, I think you remember, down there. So that's been plastic welded. Looks absolutely beautiful. I love it. The V panels had a quick skim because that was split. That was split and welded down there. So that's had a quick. They're all a bit dusty because they've been hanging up in the paint shop sort of waiting area. So they all need a polish with a bit of furniture polish. On this side panel, I don't know if you remember, that was looking a bit rough. So that's basically had a buff, because you can see the little patina marks in it, little scuff at the bottom there, but it's good patina, it's original paint. It's had a new decal. That decal there is new. The front nose cone is totally original, so that's been buffed. And we've discovered something about this paintwork. Unusually, the number board, the red, is painted on first. So the whole of that nose cone is painted red at the start in the factory, which will give a slight different tint to the black, which we've discovered. And it's buffed up the screen as well. So that looks sort of era correct. It's come up nice, that. And finally, oh, the tank. Wow, done a good job of that. And I'm pleased to say, you can't even see, but it's dark in there, it's not gone rusty again. So whatever I did, it worked. The decals, the blue decals, look great. Such a nice paint job. So I'm going to get the bike running this afternoon. It's got fluids in it, there's no leaks. So it's literally rig up a auxiliary tank and get her fired up, and then I'm going to just make sure it all runs all right and get it warmed up properly. And then next job is fitting the plastics, and then
the Schick RGV250 Schick, one of 500 only, is finished. Yes, she's finished, so I'm squinting a bit because it's so warm and sunny, but summer is here at last. So the next part of this video, you'll see the bike running, and then the exciting bit, the plastics are getting fitted, and I'll take the bike somewhere pretty in the countryside and do a walk around in some good weather. Right, a momentous occasion, and I genuinely have not tried to start the bike. Sorry about the noise, I live on quite a busy road. So I genuinely have not tried to start the bike. It's absolutely stone cold. I'll just show you the pipes. Look, I'm touching the pipe, it's stone cold. Stone cold. So I've just put that dummy fuel tank up. Auxiliary fuel tank, not dummy, because it's not a dummy, it works. And first stage, the carbs don't leak, which is good. So they're full of fuel and they don't leak. So the next stage is, choke is on. The next stage is trying to get the thing going. So here goes. Early. Here we go. Probably going to go into one because it's running low on fuel, but we have success. Thankfully, needs a bit of setting up on the carburetor. Yeah, carburation needs some setting up, but she's running. Not great. That'll just need a bit of tweaking. Happy days.
Good morning. Well, here she is, the completed RGV 250K Schick, and what a beauty she is. I'm absolutely ecstatic of how she's turned out. As I said from the start, Rob wanted a patina bike, so that's what he's got. She is absolutely lovely. So as you know, we've had some paint done. So the tank's been painted, the two tail side units are painted, and this side panel and the V piece have been painted. Apart from that, everything else has just been buffed up. So the nose cones have been buffed, the mudguard's been buffed up, the left hand panel on the fairing has been buffed up, and the little top piece for the tail and the back just being buffed and polished. So it's a good mixture of patina and stuff that had to be painted. Now the tank obviously was a different tank, so that was essential. And this side panel was broken in 2 or 3 places along the join and down there was completely broken through, cracked. So that's been welded, plastic welded. But I think you'll agree, she's an absolute beauty. It's a beautiful colour scheme. It's one of the best that Suzuki have made. It's subtle, yet because of the red number boards and the very subtle silver and the chic, very subtle. I just think it's one of the best sort of unusual colour schemes out there for the old 80s, 90s two-strokes. Obviously the blue and white with 3 stripe is the one everybody goes for, but this is just subtle and I love it. So today's the day that I drop off the bike. Rob's getting it back and he has seen pictures of it, because I did ask him if he wanted to wait and see, but he didn't. He wanted to see it, so I've taken some nice pictures and forwarded those on to him. So I think it's just, he's like a kid at Christmas, and it's the, having seen it, it's the anticipation of receiving it now. So he knows what he's getting, and it's going to be a good day. So I've got about an hour and a half drive ahead of me, a couple of hours maybe, and then I'm picking up another project off him that I'm doing a lighter restoration on. So there's going to be a whole new series of this process on this new bike. I'm not going to tell you what the bike is, but safe to say she's rare, she's come straight from Japan, and she's highly original. So we'll leave it at that. So it's been a great process, this chic. I've loved every minute of it, and onwards to the next one. See you in the next series.